when you mentioned Hamas knew this was going to happen, do you think they knew? I mean, you're outlining this story of dominoes falling over, which could lead to World War III. And the first thing I thought was, if you are Hamas in Gaza, you're thinking World War III is our only path to any kind of change.
Well, look, again, I think World War III is a little hyperbolic. I don't foresee Russia getting involved, although it could happen, something like that. We're already in a massive proxy war against Russia right now, as we all know, which is horrifying and terrifying. But they're not that close with the Ayatollah. You know, Russia and Iran, they have their own tensions going back, and they've been getting along okay. And Iran has been sending drones for the Russian war effort and that kind of thing. But they don't have like a treaty of alliance where Russia would go to war for Iran. And quite frankly, I think worst case scenario here, the war spreads to Lebanon and possibly Iraq. But I really think that the Americans and the Ayatollah's guys too have got to be cautioning him. And I think the American military has got to be telling Joe Biden how badly they do not want to fight Iran. You put that map up earlier there. The country's, 3-4 times the size of Afghanistan? Afghanistan is the size of Texas, okay?
People don't understand this too. That's why I say a geography lesson.
And this is mountains, too. Topography lesson counts, too. Yep. This isn't flat desert like Iraq.
These are mountains.
You cannot win here, man.
Mountains, massive, with massive air defense. The U.S. military doctrine is defined by its air superiority.
I really... Now, I don't know how much I believe that there is a war with Iran coming, like whether cooler heads will prevail or not. But I strongly believe that if it does happen, the U.S. will justify using tactical nuclear weapons because they'll want to take out the oil reserves. They'll want to take, because that's what Lindsey Graham's after. Or they'll use Moabs as big as they possibly can. Exactly. If they don't want to get on, they don't want to have.
What do you make of Iran having trained Hamas fighters?
Well, look, I mean, they have a real interest in disrupting the situation in Israel and Palestine. If you really want,
I mean, Iran was training Hamas fighters before they were even Hamas, like back in the late 80s, when Hamas was essentially forming in Lebanon with Hezbollah.
So, well, no,
Hezbollah was training Hamas.
That's different. Yeah, Hamas.
And so was
Hamas
the
is
Iranians.
part. Yeah, and they're part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And I want to recommend to you and to everyone listening a great book by Robert Dreyfuss called "Devil's Game: How the United States Helped Unleash Fundamentalist Islam."
So it's the U.S.'s fault that the extremist
Libby,
Islamists.
yes, because America inherited all of the European and the Japanese world empires after World War II. America is the dominant force in the Middle East, though we're the middle part of North America.
We created the people that hate us now? Is that, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Not created in the oversimplified sense, but yes, the enemy in the Cold War was first the commies and second the nationalists. And who's opposed to both the commies and the nationalists? The Islamists. And so America and Britain and Saudi Arabia spent billions spreading fundamentalist Islam throughout the region. And not just the Wahhabism of Saudi, but the Muslim Brotherhood essentially was meant to disrupt all secular politics in the region for generations and did so. That was the purpose of it. And that was why America backed the Muslim Brotherhood. That was a huge part of the reason, of course, that America and Saudi worked together to send a bunch of guys, proto-Al-Qaeda guys, to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan in the 1980s, which is
the
where...
Mujahideen, those
That's
guys?
right. Well, because see, there was the Afghan Mujahideen, but then there was the Arab Afghan army. And these were mercenaries. Again, look at the map. All of these guys are Arabs. Then you have Persia. And then you have the Afghans, who are Hazaras and Tajiks and Uzbeks and Pashtuns, right? They're not Arabs at all. So they got all these Arabs to come and sent them to fight in Afghanistan, including the guys who were the leaders of what became Islamic Jihad and Al-Qaeda that ended up turning against the United States. So, and in fact, most people don't know this, but throughout the 1990s, when Al-Qaeda was already attacking the United States, Bill Clinton kept supporting them anyway. He supported them in Bosnia, and in Kosovo, and in Chechnya. And you might remember when Vladimir Putin declared war on Ukraine 2.5 or a year and a half ago, in his declaration of war, he said, And I like the way he did this too, because he knew it was going to sound like conspiracy stuff. So he phrased it like this. He goes, come on, let's be adults about this. We know what you and Britain were doing in Chechnya. Right? That was true. America was supporting bin Ladenite head choppers, suicide bomber, murderers against the Russians.
Hanging out in Brooklyn. I mean,
well, and his men were essentially divided. Right? There was this. They were motivated to attack the United States by, one, our stationing of troops in Saudi Arabia, two, in order to bomb Iraq from 1990 all the way through. Okay, through the entire Clinton years, and then support for Israel in their occupations of Palestine and at that time of southern Lebanon, as well as support for all the dictatorships in the region. Well, so even though Bill Clinton was backing them in Kosovo and in Chechnya, they were still coming for us anyway. He was using them, but he wasn't buying their loyalty. And so I'm not like a 9/11 truther here saying the CIA had them attack us. That's not right. But what happened was they were too clever by half, just like Netanyahu. They think they're so smart. We're going to back these terrorists. And then I'll tell you, I got these great quotes for you guys. Okay, this one is from the American Pentagon in the years before September 11th. They said, terrorism is a small price to pay for being a superpower. Yeah. Okay. And what they were thinking was, come on, somebody sets off a truck bomb at an embassy in Africa or something. Who cares? We get to rule the world. Okay. Here's a quote just like that, Libby, that you can find from Benjamin Netanyahu addressing the leaders of his party, the Likud. And he's talking about anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas in Gaza.
Hey,
because they will never deal. But then he said, we control the height of the flame, right? It's that same imperial arrogance of the Bill Clinton years that we can use these people to keep things the way we want them, whether to fight our enemies or to divide and conquer our subject peoples. But then what are they going to do? Right? In fact, one more quote was from a female Israeli soldier who warned her superior officers that Hamas is training. They're obviously training hard. They're preparing something.
Guys, NBC.
And her boss, one sec. Her boss told her,
breaking news?
Yeah, there's breaking news, Scott.
Okay,
they're punks. They won't do anything.
Right. What is
NBC Boston is reporting that the Lewiston main shooter, Robert Card, has been located and is dead.
Oh, damn.
Okay.
Where is he?
Well, good.
I don't know. I'm just looking at it right now. This is the man suspected in Wednesday's massacre that killed 18 people in Lewiston, Maine, has been found dead. Sources told NBC Boston investigators Friday night. Robert Card was the subject of a days-long manhunt that followed mass shootings at the just-in-time recreation bowling alley in Schmemigans Bar and Grill.
Schmeggies.
All right.
So
you're from New Hampshire. You should know how to pronounce things.
It's literally Schmemigans.
I know, it's very weird. It's Schmeggies.
Anyways, specific details are not available immediately, but the sources told NBC 10 Boston investigators that there is no longer a threat in Maine as Card has been located and is deceased. And that is literally just popped up like 5 minutes ago.
I just wanted to say, because we talk a lot about this deep history with the Middle East and U.S. involvement, and it kind of feels like a lot of the conversations I've had, I'm always just like, someone will make a bunch of points about, well, there's, Libby says these people hate us, and then you're talking about these operations, and I'm just like, would we not benefit from not being involved? Like, is it better for us?
Yes.
We just totally not be involved.
100%.
And so when I hear a lot of like moral arguments, well, like what they're doing this and they're doing this, and then the Israel-Palestine stuff specifically, I'm kind of like, my response is, I'm America. I don't know why we're arguing with the morality of foreign nations that are in a generational conflict when we should be helping our people.
The answer is because America is the world empire, Tim, and this is a huge contradiction, right? This is the new world. Our ancestors came here so they could mind their own business and be free, and yet America came out on top at the end of the Second World War. The rest of the industrialized world was burnt to the ground, and so America had half the GDP of the planet, and then they took full advantage and they created a world empire. They justified it in the name of containing the Soviet Union. And then when the Soviet Union ceased to exist 30 years ago, what'd they do? Quit and go get a real job? No. They went and they expanded to the Middle East. They expanded into Eastern Europe. And they picked a fight with Al-Qaeda, and they picked a fight with Russia, and now here we are. Same as they expanded, by the way. You guys are such China hawks on here, but who started the China pivot? That was Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Clinton, who said now's time to pick a fight with China. That was their policy.
I just want to, my view, and it's probably naive, it's probably ignorant, whatever, but my view is a tremendous opportunity after the fall of the Soviet Union for trade agreements and not war.
Right.
To say, hey, you look at what's going on in Eastern Europe, and we keep hearing from the establishment press and from the neocon, neo-lib uniparty that it's an unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. And Russia, oh, come on. NATO expansion.
That's my book is called Provoked. It's about how they provoked it.
But at the very least, if you want to make the argument that, I was in Ukraine at the start of the protests, which eventually turned into the ousting of Yanukovych, and in the city, I talked to many random people. And what did I find? They were very pro-EU. And when I talked to them, they say that what I was generally told by a lot of Ukrainians was, Russia wants to create this trade union. They want Ukraine to be a part of it. Many Ukrainians don't trust Russia, obviously, because Soviet Union wasn't even that long ago. So a lot of the older folks are really concerned. And entering the EU is a major economic lift up, and the Schengen zone, a lot of people want to move. And so that's where we're going. That is all geopolitical dispute and conflict, which results in escalated conflict. The idea that there's no provocation, what the media keeps saying, is just absurd. Right. As long as our military alliances are expanding in a region, there is cause for conflict.
Right. You're absolutely right. And look, this isn't just hindsight, okay? This is what all the paleo conservatives said 30 years ago. Pat Buchanan and, Scott McConnell and all the guys who were like the refugees from the George H.W. Bush Republican Party at that time. Ron Paul ran for president in 1988, saying we need to completely back out of the old world altogether. And was absolutely right. And what happened? H.W. Bush took full advantage. He lied to the Russians. He knew the plan was to expand NATO, and they lied to the Russians and made them believe that they wouldn't expand NATO just to get them out of the way.
You know what I love? You're obviously familiar.
They lied us into Iraq War I as well.
You're obviously familiar with the liberal economic order.
Sure.
So, Ian brings that up quite a bit. And we've pulled up the Council on Foreign Relations website outlining the liberal economic order and plainly stating, they said after World War II, the fears of expanded war and nuclear annihilation led to this idea of the liberal economic order, which is a soft way of saying American empire, military bases everywhere, the American world police, and it's an impossibility. Naturally, what you're doing is creating something that becomes the massive target. The U.S. never had the capability of suppressing the rise of any other economic power, though they try. Right. It doesn't happen. And now we're staring at the fourth turning, World War III, whatever you want to call it. And it's what my favorite part is, you get to the point where you get H.W. Bush saying, what was his quote? We can begin to see a new world order. Now, you get a bunch of people complaining about the idea of the new world order, which literally is a reference to an expansion upon the CFR, the liberal economic order, into a new version of it, which is American world police, etc. The media runs out full speed screaming the conspiracy theory of the new world order. And what I think happens is a lot of people fall victim to this. There's a legitimate concern over powerful interests internationally, corporate interests and their vassals in government to create and maintain the liberal economic order and their new version of it. What happens then is the media, because these people are easily, they're stupid and they're evil for not every single one, but a lot of them, they will take the legitimate story of the liberal economic order, pull the most absurd claims off the internet, create this psychotic conspiracy theory, and then say anybody who's saying this believes the crazy conspiracy theory to try and discredit the idea that there are people who are actually calmly and rationally saying, that thing you've been doing for a long time about trying to set up military bases everywhere to be a world police, I think it's a bad idea that's going to get us all killed. They say what he actually believes, that lizard people have set up a base in the Denver airport and he's insane. Don't listen to him.
Right. Look, you're right. And look, the New World Order, when H.W. Bush said it, what he meant was the era of the American empire and no one can oppose us now. As he put it, what we say goes.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.